Just want to hark back to what happened last week. Let's just listen into some of the sentiments that were aired during the National Prayer Breakfast.
Mr. President and Mr. President of South Sudan, thank you for having me with you. And I have two requests from my country back home. You might have noticed we have a little political turbulence at the moment. And we're just wondering if you have a spare Prime Minister around. We could...
And because you have been good to us, your request for a Prime Minister we have a retired one in Kenya, and we can and since the Constitution has abolished the position of Prime Minister in Kenya, so he may not have it anytime soon, so we will send you his CV. Maybe you can consider.
Kenya will be a different country in less than 5 years. That's number one. We love talking about it. We love making our commitments. But the practical side, a bit tough. Let's just do it. Let's not talk about doing it. Let's just do it. That is all our people ask of us. Nothing else. We can sing from the rooftops, but all our people want is for us to do what we've said.
I think we missed out on the bit of President Ruto also replying on that particular joke that, yes, he's not asking for only one, he's got two more, right, so that he can have peace for the next 3 years as well. I think my editor will look up on that and then we'll play it much, much later. But let's listen from Aaron Cheriot, your reaction on this.
You know, Dubal, this country is very interesting. Sometimes we make a whole fuss about very simple things. And when I heard that ODM, or Gold DM as they are referred to nowadays, was having a presser to respond to a joke, and I realized that how much they have lost the plot as a party. And I want to, you know, my good friend Otiende, you have good brains. I think it is time that you put them to use in your party. You cannot continue to have Edwin Sifuna as your Secretary General and as the face of ODM. The truth of the matter is that sometimes also some things have got to be let to be what they are. This was just a good light moment, you know. If it was to be as serious as Sifuna and the people that went to respond to this particular joke was, then perhaps you would have expected that even on the other side in Westminster, Dr. Hastings would have received his fair share of rebuttals, also being told, oh, why are you dangling a Prime Minister's position in Kenya? I mean, who could not understand that this was just a light moment, that even the President came and like you rightly pointed out, he said, I can give you two more just to give me peace in the country. This is a good joke about it, and we should encourage this issue of believing that our politics should always be combative. And every time I say something about Eseli, it means it is because I hate him and therefore he has to respond to me. We have got to do away with that kind of our politics. At the end of the day, these are human beings and we share sometimes experiences that may not be pleasant. Of course, there is a history of what either of the DP or former Prime Minister have said against each other on past occasions. But it was not the prominent feature at this particular point in time. Therefore, it was absolutely misplaced for anyone to imagine and think that either it was an insult or any kind of a thing. It was just a good joke. That is how I understood it.
All right. But was it a good joke from your own assessment?
I think I would like not so much to dwell on what was said, but the occasion. And for me, the question to ask is, this was supposed to be a national prayer breakfast, I think the 17th. Is it living up to its expectation? And I have my serious doubts. As I've said before, I believe that for prayers, people like us, when you go to pray, you do more listening than talking, because we are the congregants, and then they're the preachers, like what Aaron would have been if he had not come into politics, and in which case we would be listening to him. But now that he came into politics, he should not expect that we can listen to him on matters godly. So on such an occasion, to change it for an occasion for ill-mannered banter and stale joke, I think is unfortunate. We allow too much of the congregants to speak. It is telling that we didn't even hear any word of God throughout that representation. We have made it a situation where we take political jibes at each other. It is a situation where the deputy president seeks to explain why he donates so much money and what he has God to thank for. And it's the occasion when the president also has his manner of responding and saying that you must now practice what you say. I mean, we all know what all those words mean. It is the occasion of taking a joke, not at the former PM, but at the country. When you say we as a country, we have, people, PMs, 2 or 3 or 4 to donate, it is a joke at us. So for me, I think that it was all ill-mannered banter and stale jokes. It demonstrates why we need to rethink the format and the necessity for that national prayer breakfast, so that if it is prayer, then let's go for prayer. Let's not make it an occasion for political banter and bad jokes.
All right. Let's hear from Miseli.
I think we are forgetting the person who started it all. It was Hastings who started it all. Yeah. And I think, to me, it's a very, very amusing kind of scenario. I think what Hastings created there is something that tells us that perhaps the whole world, especially the UK, recognizes Raila. Because if they can talk about that and reduce it to Raila, then I think it's something that that perhaps is good for Raila. So nobody in ODM should complain. Yeah. I think it's good for Raila. In the sense
what makes you think that Hastings had Raila in mind?
But Hastings coming to Kenya, he must have looked at the history of Kenya. He knew, he's not a fool, he knew what he was talking about. I don't think he was just throwing it around. I think he was trying to imply that they wouldn't mind having Raila as their boss in the UK. I think Raila's people should not complain. I think this is good for Raila. But all the same, it doesn't mean that we should accept insolence at high places. I think it's not good. But it's a very interesting scenario. If depending on the way you look at it, I hold no brief for Raila, but I would advise the ODM people not to complain. I think this is good for him internationally, because they are saying that he can actually be exported and actually do a good job in UK.
Well, is it providential right now?
They don't want to allow him to do the good job here in Kenya.
So, Jacob, because we have even Kevin Bira here, who's put up a picture of Raila at Chatham House right now. Baba took his resume to the UK already, as you can see. As you can see it right yeah, he's already taken his, and of course he will be making a speech at Chatham House already. But the fact that he was actually not during this particular occasion, I think it is also fair that yes, if a person is not there, then you shouldn't actually take jibes and not giving him an opportunity to have a right of reply, but, so to speak.
Well, Raila has already been exported. He works for the AU. What is the Sally telling us? He's an export material. So, but I have been a member of National Prayer Breakfast. I've attended many, including twice, the one for Washington, D.C. I've gone to Uganda, Brazzaville, and I think 2 other countries. This is not a church. It's not a church. Remember, once I read the Bible, and then I sang in that MP's choir. So when the DP stood...
You sang in that choir?
Many times, all the time.
Oh, now we can see why there is a problem. The foundation is shaky.
You know, it is a day to pray for the country, is to bring leaders together. Well, I was in the first one after post-election violence. I was the only person from ODM who attended. It was a time people were not talking to each other. So we were saying, how is it that we can get all leaders there? Now it has matured that leaders are accepting of it. They come. It is good for the nation to see leaders at least wishing Kenya well, at least praying for our future. That's all it's about. It is not praying for us. It's about praying for all of us. I was telling you that I was there when after I read the Bible, when William came, he said he was so surprised to see Waititu and Midio singing in the choir, which I think it's a good thing. But I see nothing wrong with the joke. Mm-hmm. At least William spoke and didn't say anything negative towards a fellow leader. He said nothing negative. Mm-hmm. And from looking at him, you know my views about William Ruto. But on this one, tunamchokoza. Mm-hmm. He never meant anything ill. I think the ODM brigade took it wrongly. I only have one issue with what Uhuru said, that we talk without action. It is Uhuru who talks without action. Uhuru, we love you. You have ministers mentioned in your cabinet. You have said, he said in parliament that they were going to go through due process. On Madaraka Day, he said they must step aside. They are still in office nearly 4 days later. Which Uhuru do Kenyans should believe? Who should we believe? The one who spoke in parliament or the one who was in Narok? If he is serious about war against graft, we should not be enjoying jokes. He should talk tough, but walk the talk.
Okay, let's hear from Watangi.
Dibal, I would take the view that Dr. Hastings must have known. The words he used. He said that if you have a spare, if you have a spare one. He didn't say lend as yours, or if you have one. He said if you have a spare one. And so he must have been knowing that there is already one. So I believe that even for ODM to react to the request for a spare one, and they know that theirs is not spare. It is already, I think it was an overreaction. But what is amusing was in the reaction by the president, because of course you remember he himself was the deputy prime minister. and then I think we also had, that was Musalia Mudavadi. And was Kalonzo Musyoka ever one?
He was the vice president.
Oh, he was vice president, yeah. So
when you mentioned Musalia next to Japoli, you have to be very careful. He gets very excited.
No, I mean, I would be thinking that when the president was talking about the other two, and then the debate ended with the contestation by ODM, they could have been locking the doors for potential ones who might be willing, like Musalia. I mean, it's a major opportunity. I hope the joke was not intended to depict a swap between the one they have, they wanted to replace in the UK, and what would be giving them. But I think the mood, the atmosphere of that day really was jocular, and you can see from the body language of the deputy president when he's speaking. He's actually, you can read that he's trying to find words, to make it funnier, and pick them carefully so that it comes out as a joke. I don't think it was intended as slap in my view, and sometimes though there might be hard feelings, sometimes there may be tough competition between political competitors. It's okay once in a while to let it go, by introducing, by joking a little bit, letting each other know, or each other know that it's really not held in the hearts of the two, that it's a personal rivalry, really. It's competition. And I believe when Raila comes, where is Raila? He's in
Chatham House, right? He's in the UK.
I wanted to find from the cousin, out from the cousin.
From the cousin.
But I believe when he comes back, he will have an opportunity also then to.
We hope Jacoyo, have you helped him to update his CV?
No, his CV has just been sent to you. He was even carrying it.
Okay.
But the speaker, the foreign speaker, was referring to the fact that on the 7th, Theresa May steps down.
Yes.
So they will not have a prime minister. That's
Thank you.
actually
That's the biggest
the basis
political
of the
issue.
joke. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Lastly, let's just close with it with Otieno Molo. Do you think also ODM overreacted to this particular joke? I mean, it was a light moment, but looking at also his entire speech in its entirety, when we talk about him talking about being a hats boy, and of course right now he's sitting at the same table, with high table with Uhuru Kenyatta as well. Was he in a way presenting, the dynasty and the hustlers debate as well? You know,
in those years that he was going to school, where many people were going to school at that time, he was not the only barefoot student. There were thousands and hundreds of thousands.
Did he in any way say he was the only one?
No. So the
So
thing
what's
is,
your point?
no. The point is this: I have not finished. So why are you interrupting? Perhaps you didn't go to school barefoot. That's why you're interrupting.
Of course I did.
So the issue of having gone to school barefoot is not a big deal, and it's not a qualification to be president. So, so I don't see. Personally.
I mean, seriously?
Personally, I don't see. I don't see the.
To answer you directly, that was my exact point. You may have gone to school barefoot, you may have suffered, and many of us equally suffered, but is it the occasion to go for the National Prayer Breakfast and they start explaining it as the basis for what you do? And that was my point. And I hear Brother Jacoyo explaining the history and the rationale. But if you want to bring political leaders together, then bring them in a rally. Don't call it a prayer, because there is no prayer there.
No,
that is just an occasion when you allow people to banter, and it's not really a good one, including the abilities to practice singing. I'm sure that is where members of parliament who've never sung try out their skill. Now, anyway, more seriously, why was the deputy president responding? Even the person Hastings was addressing was the president, not him. So if there was to be any response, it would have been by the president, not the deputy president. But it speaks to what I've always said, which Aaron doesn't agree with, that the deputy president had stopped deputizing the president a long time ago. He charts his own path now on everything, including speech. Now, that's not what the Constitution contemplated. Now, generally for me, I think prayer is a good thing. And I think when prayers are well conceived, it serves its purpose. But when it is not well conceived, and the only thing that people can talk about is the joke, rather than the message of the prayer, it tells you there's a problem.
all right. Cherioti, you wanted to actually respond to.
I don't think it's worth a response because it was so cynical that I remember someone of Veseli's standing in respect surely shouldn't be saying such things.
But why did it hurt you if it's so cynical?
No, because surely,
okay.
One, let me just explain something.
Definitely.
For sure, no, it doesn't, because I'm not William Ruto. So there's no way it can get to me. Neither do I hold brief for him.
Thank you.
But I just expect that sometimes when you're looking at things, even to the people that we do not agree with politically, what is wrong at a prayer, Sally, and I've told you, on matters Christianity, allow me to hold your hand and show you how it goes. In church, there is a session called testimony time. During testimony time, you speak about the things that have happened in your life and how it uplifts you. That was that particular session. You speak about how, when you look back at how far you come from, it was not a political tirade or anything of the sort.
Thank you. Let's leave it at that.
My good friend Otiende,
that was in the program.
Otiende has never attended the prayer breakfast. That's why he's completely lost on it. He doesn't understand the foundation.
Thank you.
And what it means.
All right.
Problem with it.
Okay.
Attend, you will understand.
Thank you. Let's leave it at that.
But it's life. You don't need to.
No, no, no.
Otiende, can I just advise?
You want to advise Otiende?
Otiende, there's something called fellowship in Parliament. Every Wednesday morning
At
7.
7.
Yes, I know that.
It is the basis of that thing, and they meet there every Wednesday morning. And they even do the singing. The only problem with that singing is that now the people who, like you, who never go there to fellowship, now join.
I've never been there.
And now they join too. So please make time. I knew your parents were Christians. I knew you were.
Is that the cause of them saying
But
no?
what I wanted to say, to Ban, as to advise Aaron, my friend, that we are not worried about the going to school without shoes and all that. We are only worried about comparison with others whom you now think you're equal to because you have an explained wealth. What we are asking, how did you buy the shoes? We agree the first one was bought for you by some Jaluo that I don't know. But the thing is,
How many are still not having shoes?
how many are still not having shoes? Haven't you seen those pictures, NTV airs of schools without shoes? And the people who have bought many shoes now and going around in choppers don't care. And they took an oath to protect those people.
That would be a good point.
They can't
but
even
the
buy
wrong
them.
messenger. Surely,
They can't even buy them.
a son of the dynasty cannot tell us about
I am
one.
not a scientist.
So you were on shoes.
Okay. All right. Let's just move on. And we see some of the reactions here on Twitter. Edie says the ODM anger at the Hastings joke emanates from the swipes that the DP has been directing at Raila in all rallies and churches and church services. So now when talks anything that seems to target Raila, even a joke, no good can be seen from it. This is what Edie is saying. Also, we have Kevin. We showed that it was Raila actually now, who is in the UK, who has now presented his CV. We had shown you earlier that one. We have Senator Machete. He's asking about Boni Khalwale. Where did he go to? He's busy. Is he busy in Tanga issues? This is what Machete is asking. Boni is actually breaking fast with the Muslims.
No, Bonnie has just tweeted that he withdrew some 1,000 notes in a bank somewhere. Yes, such a tweet. So. And he's complaining that he was given the old notes rather than the new one. I tell you, Bonnie has that advantage of getting new money now.
Okay, we have Not Tribal saying that Ruto suffers from OCD. This is Odinga compulsive disorder. Treatment is advised as bed rest on 3 days, on 3 Sundays, on a lighter note as well. And also we have Honorable Boni saying that Ruto wants Raila to contest for presidency. This is a Monica, not the real Boni. In 2022, that's why he keeps provoking him. He knows if Raila fronts someone, then yeye kwisha. Those are reactions from Twitter, a lot of them as well. Let's just come back to this particular discussion as well, and looking at the role of Raila Odinga, because also it seems there's some people who are taking special umbrage with some of the delegated authority that he has right now from President Uhuru Kenyatta. First of all, meeting cabinet secretaries, launching government projects, and also consulting the heads of states frequently. People are raising questions around these particular new assignments, while we know his role is actually in the African Union. So where is this predicated on as far as the delegations are concerned? Eseli?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Oh, who got back? You got? Yes, please.
I mean, first of all, I do not know who would be taking issue. It would be important to mention who would be taking issue. I know that the formation to which my friend Aaron belongs might be those who are taking issue, going by how bitter some of the statements from the Deputy President lately are. But I think anyone taking an issue that would be completely misplaced for 2 reasons. First of all, Raila is the high representative for infrastructure in Africa. Kenya is in Africa. And so meeting any official in the Kenyan government in that context cannot be wrong. You know? Secondly, Raila has his own personal charisma. And that charisma he has always had, which is why Eseli would say Dr. Hastings would recognize him, which is why Senator Matangi, said what he said. So even beyond being the high representative for Africa, his own charisma would invite that kind of a situation, not just being a person who is who has been a statesman for some time, but also a person who you cannot wish away in the political formation. And more importantly, many have attacked the handshake and the BBI and all that, but anybody who's reasonable and who has the future of this country at heart would agree that the handshake represents the biggest political move in current times and has given us the opportunity to move forward more than we could have. And therefore, if anybody were, interacts with Raila in that capacity of recognition, I see nothing wrong.
I think as a nation, we are in a very dangerous state, in the sense that everything we do is in reaction to what Raila is doing. We don't seem to have any other agenda ourselves as a nation. And that is very dangerous, because it means that whatever moves we make, we are always looking at where Raila is. And that means that we've sort of lost our responsibilities, even as leaders in this country, that when we go to sleep, we are dreaming Raila. When we wake up, we are thinking of Raila, either to counter him or to do something about him. I think that kind of situation is pathological. We need to get out of it. We need to get out of it so we can move on. And I'm sure Raila will reinvent himself so many times. But the rest of us need to also recognize that we have a responsibility as Kenyans to see things for what they are. And right now, this continued obsession about Raila, so that everywhere somebody makes a comment is referring to Raila, either Raila this, Raila that, Raila this, Raila that. I think we need to get out of it. It's becoming pathological and it's not healthy for this country. And I think in the process, we are going to actually even damage Raila himself as a human being. Because once you start raising him to the level of a deity, then you start losing the plot. And I think as Kenyans we need, and especially the leadership, they need to get out of it.
Right. Aaron Cheriot?
I hope you'll spare such a thought and a day for William Ruto as well, because I think he suffers equally as much when there's no day Eseli will come here and not refer to him derogatorily. There's no day Jakoyo will do the same.
When have I referred to
Otiende will never finish a rally on a weekend. And
by saying that many other people go to school
you know why
barefoot.
Otiende is a fan of the handshake? You need to go to his social media account. Earlier on, before the handshake, he was a very humble legislator, a brilliant one. On weekends, he was building Simbas, those mad houses. But since the handshake, you will see him on Rusinga Island with my good friend Senator Kajuang, Silas Jakakimba, landing in a chopper and going to Harambee. So you can understand his excitement with the handshake, because things have changed ordinarily.
We'll get back to that. We'll get back to you on that.
And therefore you have got to understand. But generally speaking, what the point that I was trying to make is he first of all on Raila, is that I think it is befitting of any leader operating at the level he operates, because maybe there are not 3 or 4 other leaders in the country who operate on that level, to have praise and criticism in equal measure. And it needs to be counter-checked. There need to be people who celebrate his kind of leadership, and there need to be people also who critique it, because it can only make him a better person in terms of, this is somebody who has the potential to lead this country. Therefore, there is absolutely nothing wrong to those who keep on counter-checking each and every of his political statements. The same is done of the DP. There is no week a newspaper will finish without him having been there at least 2 or 3 out of 7 days that are in a week. It is important and it is good. The only thing that we would advise, and this I have said this before, is that in his newfound alliance with the Jubilee administration, he sometimes take it to acquaint himself with what are the proper operations of government, so that he doesn't find himself in very embarrassing situations. Like, for example, what happened with that trip to China, with the president, where before reading the proper brief and to know that there are things that you don't reveal early on in hand as they can come back to either portray you in a bad light. You know, the president found himself in an embarrassing situation. Here is somebody who's gone out and said, we have gone to China to bring money to come and complete the railway from Naivasha to Kisumu. Then it later emerges that that was not even on the agenda. So you see, a little bluffs here and there are what make some of us not very comfortable with him. Otherwise, generally, nobody has a problem. I believe any good leader, even at our level, you should. I don't have a problem with my critics. They make me a better person. The only thing that we ask of is that when you do it, please let it be devoid of hate and, you know, sort of cynical tirades.
Devoid of hate. That I agree with you, Senator. You know, I would advise you not to compare Ruto and Raila, because I think the two are like night and day.
Yeah, Raila is night.
Well, that is you saying. That is you saying. That is hate speech also. So I said the two are like night and day. You are putting words into my own mouth. And I can tell you, when Raila spoke about the railway, it is infrastructure. He was going to seek money that can bring railway to Kenya as AU, not as Kenya government. And he went to China as a representative of the AU. You know, that is infrastructure. You know, the fact that it was turned against him to mean that, and it is Team Tanga that were trying to portray Uhuru as somebody who failed to get a loan. So the mere fact that Raila spoke about it in Sondu, he fell a victim of misinformation. But I thought that is the work of Raila in the AU that this country sent him to. Secondly, as a representative representing Kenya in the AU in that capacity, I think he must be involved in development. However, Dibala, I only wanted to say one thing. How I wish William Ruto, Raila Odinga, all these leaders, including Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia, and Uhuru, sat down and figured out what most reasonable Kenyans are talking about, that there is very little of our fabric left, and that we must figure out which way. Elections are 38 months away if you don't change the constitution. Can this IEBC run an election? Is it possible? Which way in and how do you do an election where people don't kill one another after every 5 years? Now that Raila is in this mix and he controls half of this country, why can't we, since the handshake, how haven't we had of a meeting on which way forward as a country? Are we going to do it like we did this other one, which we selected IBC members, I think 7 months before an election? This is where we are, because as I hear it, what I saw the deputy president say that day at Safari Park, said there is no referendum, sending a message. I've heard most of these people saying there is no referendum, and I can tell you, it shall come back to haunt them, because not all of them can be president, and if the only bed we are spreading is that there is going to be very serious realignments and serious disagreements.
Thank you. Wamatangi.
Dibala, you know, if I understood your question well, I think if I would rephrase it, what you're asking, because in the initial you asked where is the president in their working relationship with Raila, drawing the power to extend the privileges and the power he's given to sometimes to execute to the former prime minister. And if I would rephrase that question, Dibala, you would be asking this: do we need another disaster, for example, 2007 and 2008, or do we need another Kofi Annan to have our own initiative of a national accord? Or do we need to go through the processes of Serena and discussions and formalization to adapt an accord that says that we should and are able to work together. And I believe, drawing from that, if you look at every political contestation globally, most of the time what happens is that the two top contenders, and remember what happened during Trump's case, and the very hotly contested battle with Clinton. And nobody ever believed that Clinton would take that walk she said she took in the morning up a mountain, and he came down and said, I concede and I will support and we'll work together. And that actualization, when you say that and make it real, is I believe what you would be looking at. It is my conviction, speaking objectively, that the situation that we have been in, and Dibal, let me say this, that would also be untrue to ourselves and to our people if we did not acknowledge that we have a hierarchy of political sway. That you would say that Uhuru Kenyatta is influential despite the fact that he's president as a politician. That you would say that William Ruto is influential despite being the deputy president, and Raila Odinga, and the others. And so when it comes to that one discussion, what should happen in the immediate after an election? Should we encourage, and I believe that we don't need a written law. We do not need a formal discussion or sitting whereby you would be saying that amongst those top contenders, you can have a discussion whereby you will say, let us bring this country together. Let us do things for the sake of having a united way and a better way of doing things.
Thank you.
So, in my view, as long as, and that's what I've always maintained, in my view, as long as the handshake, the cooperation between the two remains confined to ensuring that we have a better country, that we have more peaceful processes, that there is more unity. As long as it remains confined to that, there is absolutely no problem with it.
Thank you.
The only problem, let me finalize, as I always do, is that the only problem...
Thank you, Omatagi.
The only problem, and Dibal, you know why I always have to you know how I have to finalize? It's because you have this bad habit of interjecting.
No, because I finalize.
And so if you don't want me to finalize,
no, you finalize.
So stop interjecting, then I'll finalize.
We're out of time.
What I wanted to put across is that, because it's important for us to be realistic when we put this across the bar, that only when we lace that unity with politics, then we taint its intention.
Thank you.
As long as let's leave it at that. It remains pure, then we are good with it.
Thank you.